Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of my virtual book club. I hope you are excited as I am because it's Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Every Tuesday, we have an extraordinary author to share with you. So I want you to make sure that you take this moment, this time to share this right now. Share it now. Start a watch party. And by all means, if you hear something that catches your attention, make sure that you share and you comment. So today, sharing with us today, we have a new author, only been out a month and a half. Eva Melton is sharing with us today. Eva, how are you today?
I'm good. Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
We are glad to have you today. Now, for those who don't know you, share a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Eva Melton, a native of Selma, Alabama,
Right.
and I am a new first-time author. Book came out first part of October on Kindle. It's now in paperback, available on Amazon. But I'm also a pastor, and I also do accountability coaching, private coaching, one-on-one around purpose. So that's in a nutshell who I am. I reside right now here in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm pastor of the Firm Foundation Church in Avondale.
All right. Great, great, great. Now, with all that you have going on, what made you say, I want to be an author, even at such a time as this?
Wow. So, Breadcrumbs to Purpose, which is the name of my book, it was Living on Purpose was the original name of the book. And it was a sermon series that I preached January 2020. 6 sermons that I preached. And as we got ready to go, I started, afterwards, just how the congregation responded to it, because with each sermon, I had tangible activities that they could do and focus on during the week. And we would talk about them in Bible studies. It was just a topic that they felt like they needed. I got such good feedback about it that I said, you know what, I need to get this in a book. And so I ended up starting the book, and lo and behold, because it's not the same as just preaching a message, but you take something and you say, I want it to be able to be communicated well in words. And so I got a writing coach, and lo and behold, COVID hit. And
Right.
it was the hardest book to get translated from sermon to written form for a book form, to just share with the world. And so that's literally how I became an author. My congregation responded so well to this, and I saw a lot of growth in them and a lot of growth in myself.
Mhm.
And the way that God gave me the illustrations around purpose, I knew that it was divinely inspired, and it was something that I felt like that I should share with the world.
Yeah, and it's funny as pastors, you're constantly pouring out and constantly having content, and to be able to put that in book form is amazing. All right, so you released it in October, right? In the midst
Yes.
of a pandemic.
Yes.
Uh, how important was it for you to get it out, even in the midst of this pandemic?
Yeah, COVID has been something, right? And
Hmm.
even the pandemic of social injustice that we've endured this year,
Absolutely.
I feel like purpose is what will carry us through. I feel like those of us who really dug down and were able to really survive and not drown in these pandemics mentally, all that was going on, being isolated, just very quickly. I feel like purpose is what kept me afloat. Like I felt like that I was created with purpose in mind, and that I was birthed into this realm, and it was not an accident that I'm
Mhm.
here in 2020, and that God had something for me to do. And as I got closer to the end of this book, there's a last chapter in here that was not a part of the sermon series, but I started talking about feeling like that this book was my pandemic work. It was the thing that
Right.
I needed to accomplish. A lot of times we look at, I could have focused on, yeah, I'm working from home every day,
Mhm.
but not having to get up and put on dress clothes to drive into my day job every day and drive home from that 20, 25, 30 minutes. It gave me time to really focus in on that part of my life that is most fulfilling for me, and that's around the area of ministry and spirituality. And so that's what anchored me. I talk a lot about 2020 in this book because I felt like it was for 2020.
Yeah.
And so as COVID, did what it did, it was kind of got to a point where it was just kind of hard to focus. I was in a tiny apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, just felt
Mhm.
so tiny, like it was caving in on me. But I
Mhm.
knew I had to get this workout, and I knew it was for 2020 because people are gearing up. I feel like you have to know your purpose before you have a solid vision for your life, or can
Yes.
start visualizing where you're going, manifesting where you want to be, you have to have purpose. And so I knew that we needed this book in 2020.
Okay. Well, let's deal with the book, beginning with Breadcrumbs to Purpose. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so Breadcrumbs to Purpose, like I said, the book was originally named Living on Purpose, but there was a sermon called Breadcrumbs to Purpose. This illustration that I feel like God just like downloaded into me, where sometimes people feel like, man, you know, I just want this big major event in my life so I know who I am, where I'm supposed to be. Some people get that, right? Some people get that. God communicates to some people in that way. A lot of times we hear our pastors or our bishops say that, you know, God just set them down one day and just laid it out before them.
Right.
That does not happen for all of us.
Right.
And that is not necessarily the only way that God can communicate with us.
Right.
But I believe that purpose is unveiled slowly through breadcrumbs many times. We may get one of those visions like I did, I talk about in the book, that led me to go to seminary. But we get those breadcrumbs along the way and you start following them, and then you pick up another one and you pick up another one. And so a lot of times I feel like our life events can be one of those ways, our passions and our gifts. Those three, I feel like, are some great ingredients that produce a great aroma for us in our lives to just kind of follow, to have a recipe. And so by life events, I'm literally talking about those events that happen in our lives that are major. They're like mile markers. When we turn 90 or 100, we look back like, this was major in my life. Like for us right now, 2020 could be a life event for us, right?
Absolutely. Right.
But I say sometimes, you know, the vision that I got in college that ultimately communicated for me to go to seminary, that was a life event. I didn't do anything. It happened. Something happened in my life. I say in the book that my divorce was a life event for me that caused me to draw closer to God, but also nurtured some of the things that were in me from a pastoral perspective. Then I talk about passions, things that we're passionate about. You know, I am very passionate about social justice issues, around environmental justice issues. So for me, staying focused this year, while there were so many protests taking place and trying to focus on writing a book, you know, that was hard for me because I'm passionate in that area. And so you have some people who are passionate in other things. Some people are passionate about, you know, animals and animal rights. And I'm not as passionate about that, but I believe that God gives us different passions that we should honor somebody else's passions, but I believe our passions help the world go round. And so if we can start locating our life events and our passions. And the third thing that I talk about that I feel is so important is our gifts. Our gifts. And a lot of times in the church, we think, well, I know what my gifts are. We got this list of what we call spiritual gifts. But you can be gifted that may be described not necessarily just in the church arena in some ways. And we have to talk about that in relation to purpose, because many times as yourself, you don't see your own gifts. Because it comes so natural to you. And so in the book, I talk a lot about getting an accountability partner to talk to you as you go through this book, because many times our gifts are in our blind spot. We don't see it. We think everybody is just good at this. But if you look around just at your circle of friends, you will find that there are some things that you're just naturally built to do, naturally do with ease, and everybody else struggles to do it. And so I call those your gifts. But if you were to just kind of sit back, the average person, just about everybody could take your life events, your gifts, and your passions. And that kind of can be like a guide to guide you towards your purpose. Why did God create me, and why did God put me in this realm?
As the saying goes, I believe, if you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. And I think once you find that purpose, find that gift that you have naturally, it will not only bless you, but bless others as well. All right. So then you go on to talk about framing our lives, the framework of our lives. Let's deal with that.
So the frame of our lives, we have a chapter in there where I talk about, you know, I start off the chapter just talking about, I have a Nikon camera. It's pretty much a professional grade camera. I love it, but it has a feature on there that we all would love, and it's autofocus. So you don't have to be a professional to use the camera, because it will autofocus based on what's all in the frame of the lens. But sometimes you get ready to take a picture and there's all these extra things moving. The clouds are moving, a dog runs by, somebody's fixing their shirt, and the camera will not focus because it's waiting on everything to be still. Sometimes in our lives, we cannot focus because we've got so much going on. And for those of us who are good at a lot of different things, you know, you have some people who are good at one thing, and I feel like that's a great gift because they can focus. But if you're passionate about a lot of different things, or good at a lot of different things, or just a high energy person, and people are always pulling on you because they know you're going to get the job done, it can be hard for you to focus. And what I talk about in the book is that focus is a key component of manifestation. Focus is a key component of manifestation. That kind of gives the energy that you need to really get in purpose and to stay in purpose. And so in order to focus, that means you have to start telling people no. Right. And for some of us, especially women, it can be hard, right? We're used to kind of being like sometimes in a supporting role. And so saying no, you know, and not saying just saying no, just be saying no, but really measuring at this moment on this day, you know, have I handled my priorities? Because at the end of the day, if you don't handle the priorities in your life, you don't really get to blame anybody else, right? Because your yes is your yes, and your no is your no. And so as we began to focus and have that time to rest, you know, I feel like we have a greater chance at creativity. I feel like a rested spirit is a spirit with a higher propensity to hear from God. And I just feel like if we really begin to focus on our purpose and say, if you don't know, but begin to focus on your passions and your gifts, I believe you leave room for God to reveal even more to you. But if we're running around tired, you know, every evening of the week, running, never downtime, we're neglecting our families, neglecting ourselves, neglecting our quiet time. I just don't believe that we will get that level of revelation that we really want, right? It's one thing to say, I think this is my purpose, but to have some type of confirmation, some type of revelation about that to seal that deal for you is so very important, because once you know what your purpose is, I believe from there you can start manifesting it in your life.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about the stillness of the frame, I think 2020 made us uncomfortably still.
Yes.
To such a degree where it made you focus on, you know, a lot of times we get so caught up in the rat race that we're not running the right race. I think it made us sit down for a minute, focus on what am I really doing, and how much of life were we just going through the motions. And
yes.
we don't even know why we did half the stuff we did, right? Working from home is only one part of what 2020 has taught us. It has taught us also that you didn't really have to do all those things that you thought you had to do every day. Talk to all the people you talk to, you know, every day, and handle everybody else's problems, because 2020, everybody got the same problem. I think we can agree. So yeah, the stillness of life, I think, is important, because many of us would have never stopped long enough to actually reevaluate where we are in life. And I think that's the blessing of going through this pandemic. As we get ready for round two, you know, maybe we didn't learn the lesson the first time. So it's like, hey, I need y'all to sit down, right?
Yeah,
talk to us about how important it is once you get to a place where you kind of feel like, okay, I know where my gift is, I kind of know where my passions lie. How do we take it from knowing it to actually doing it and fulfilling it?
Yeah, so I preached a sermon series this summer. So first part of the year, January, was Living on Purpose, which ended up being Breadcrumbs to Purpose.
Right.
In July, I preached a sermon series called Manifesting Your Purpose Through Vision.
Good.
And I believe once you know your purpose, I believe that purpose precedes vision. And I believe vision, when I talk about vision, I'm not just talking about your perspective, how you see things, but I'm talking about your strategy for how you began to live out that purpose in your life. And that becomes kind of things you're talking about, like, why am I involved in all of this, right? Because if I got to work a strategy, you start weaving out the things that have nothing to do with your vision. Absolutely. And you start placing tangible goals, right? You may see something overarching that's big, but like the Bible says something like a wise man considers the cost before he builds the house. He sees the house, he visualizes the house, he knows what the end result is, but he begins to, if you're going to estimate something, you begin to break it down into phases or into steps, and I'll need this, I'll need that. Right. And so I always tell people, you have that big thing that you may know to have that is supposed to come from your vision, but then the things that you live out every day to take you through that. And so depending on who I'm talking to, it could be something different, but really I think the big thing is having something to visualize about. Good. At a larger level. And then as you begin to break it down, you know, at the beginning, you may have this, you know, concept of what's supposed to come out of this purpose for you. Yeah. And I tell people, visualize on that, meditate on that, pray about that, write in your journal. What does that look like for you? Who's there? What does it smell like? You know, what do the rooms look like? Whatever. Right. And I believe as you start doing that, God will start giving you revelation, because at that point, you're starting to align your own energy with what God has shown you. And so I believe God starts giving you that revelation. And I think you start seeing things that I could do now. And so once you start getting that thing I can do now or next month, that's what you switch your visualization to that. And I think you just got to have a strategy. And sometimes that involves the help of a coach. Sometimes it's your best friend who may say, well, have you thought about this? You know, I think you have to have that small connection of friends or people in your life that you can talk to, who will give you that honest feedback and can just kind of help you talk through things. And that's what I do. Like sometimes it's not going to get a coach or going to get, you know, a business person to talk to. But many times my friends are like my soundboard and give me the best ideas. Right.
I think we want God to be the light into our path, right? When really how it works is he's first lamp into our feet, right? He lights our steps so that we're so busy trying to get to the big picture. Yeah. Like if we just take the first step, can you sit down first, right? Can you write out what I told you first, right? So I think that's a wonderful thing, is to make sure that you strategize it before you try to jump into the ocean. All right. So with writing this book, what was your ultimate goal for those who will buy this book, who will purchase it, who will read it? What should they come away knowing when they read Breadcrumbs to Purpose?
So the first thing I wanted to make sure that every single person that got the book, no matter their age, gender, race, ethnicity, is that they had an understanding that they were not random. You know, no matter if their parents planned them or not, they were not random, that God had a purpose in mind for them, and that they were here even in 2020 purposefully. It was not randomly and a random event. And that sometimes can just change the whole self-esteem for a person, change how they look at life, and make you realize like, hey, I'm here on assignment. I might be locked up in this house, quarantined from everybody, but I still have an assignment. And what does that look like for me? Second thing is, I want people to at least to read this book and at least have some understanding of their purpose. Now, maybe it has not been confirmed, but they're in a state of saying, well, let me try this. Because I think sometimes in your executing, you get the confirmation you need from within yourself. Like, oh yes, I've never felt this way before. I don't feel this way about doing anything else but doing this. And then lastly, for us to look at our lives and the things in our lives that are a barrier to us. You know, sometimes it's the people in our lives. Sometimes it's how we choose to interact with the people in our lives that become a barrier to us. But I think, like you said, 2020 has forced us, we've had to reckon with like the stuff we're doing that's not even important. And if we come out of this season of coronavirus, COVID-19, you know, we come out of this season, what we've been forced into because of this pandemic, unchanged. Yeah. It's been a wasted time. It's been a wasted time.
Yeah. I cringe at the thought of people saying, I can't wait till things get back to normal. Yeah, life, it will never, and it should never be normal again, right? No. It should be a new normal, especially personally, or we have wasted, you know, a whole year almost. Where we could have used this time to see where God wants us to be. Yes. All right. Well, for those who are aspiring authors who may be watching, for those who have a book in them, who feel like, okay, maybe my purpose is to write. What words of wisdom would you give to someone that is looking to publish their own book?
Right. If you feel inspired to write, I highly encourage you to consider self-publishing, especially for your first book, because you're able to get your information out there and you may realize that what you have to say is going to impact lives. Sometimes we look at our own stuff and we just downplay it, we downgrade it, we just think it's, hey, I just wrote that. Sometimes we think that about ourselves. I thought that until the book actually started hitting the hands of people who actually picked up the phone and called me and said, oh no, this is worth it. Right. You don't ever know what God is placing you and what the people around you may need. I say, even if you feel like, okay, well, haven't done this before. Well, get a coach for your first book, get a writing coach. I got a writing coach and it just was what I needed, especially in 2020, to stay focused on getting this book out. There's so many options. You don't have to try to take on everything yourself. Let somebody else design the book cover, let somebody else format it for Amazon or however you want to get it out. But I say have fun with it. If you feel inspired to write, I just say, give it some attention. When you feel drawn to something, give it your attention and give it a chance. And even if you need to get somebody outside of your current network to talk to about it, because sometimes our current network, because of familiarity, they're like, what you finna talk about? They don't. Right. But when you talk to somebody, sometimes it's us and then sometimes it's other people, right? But when you talk to somebody outside of your network who's done it before, sometimes that's all you need to get going, especially if you're trying to write something around the area of spirituality or self-help right now. The world needs it, right? Don't hold that inside of you, what God has given you, but find you a writing coach and get to work, but have fun with it. This has been the most fulfilling thing for me in my life thus far. I've done a lot of things, but writing this book, going through the process, having people to give me feedback before it was actually, edited, has been the most fulfilling thing for me. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what I would have done with 2020. Wow. If this was not what I felt like. I call it in the book, my pandemic work.
Good. Well, for those who are watching, how can they keep up with all things Pastor Eva Melton, and how can they purchase Breadcrumbs to Purpose?
Okay, so I'm on all of social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I am on Facebook. Just type in Eva Melton and you can get to me that way. I post regularly. I'm doing interviews. I just did another one before I hopped on with you. If you want to interview me about something, just holler at me. I love interviewing people about their purpose on my YouTube channel. So I'm also on YouTube, right at 150 subscribers. EvaMelton.com will tell you all things about Eva, my coaching programs. If you just want to do a purpose chat via phone, shows you how you can go about doing that. But then the book, I feel like I offer something for wherever people are in life. So we have the book, we have where you can talk to me. I have a YouTube channel, but then there's also private coaching, whatever you need. But the book is available on Amazon. You can go out there and look up Breadcrumbs to Purpose or type in Eva Melton and you can get the book on Kindle or you can get it on paperback. I personally, because I have exercises in here at the end of each chapter, I suggest that you get it on paperback, but I'm just happy and I thank you for just allowing time for me to share with your listeners.
Yeah, well, we thank you for coming and joining us, and thank all of you for watching tonight. Again, I want you to make sure you share this, make sure you start a watch party, and if you have not done so already, make sure you go purchase Breadcrumbs to Purpose. While you're in the midst of a pandemic, listen, this is the best time to read a good book. So let's make sure we support. And remember, every Tuesday we will have another dynamic author. So I want you to be blessed, and make sure you remember I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. God bless you. God keep you is our prayer.